What is up, everybody? It's your boy Richie Rich with Let's Get Rolling, and in this video, I wanted to talk about Ork Army lists. So, the Ork 9th Edition Codex is not officially out, but there have been tournaments running with the new Ork Codex, and so we have quite a bit of lists that we can actually look at, and Orks have been doing quite well. So, just to recap how we crumpin', we came out fast and hard out of the gate. Last 2 weeks there were 9 top 8 finishes on GT events. So GT, it just means that there was more than 50 players at the events on Beast Coast pairings. And Orcs actually came first 2 times. The army does feel very competitive. I would say it's the same level as Sisters and AdMech. And so the codex is still new. It's not officially out, which is weird. It's only out because of the Beast Snagga codex. So a lot of the models are unreleased, like kill rigs. People have been playing proxies, but yeah, it's definitely a competitive list, and the nice thing is that there's a lot of different unique playstyles, so that's cool. It seems like a lot of the units are pretty viable and competitive. So I'm going to be going over 5 different army lists in this video. The first army list is an MSU style list that was ran by Rich Kilton. The second list was a recent first place by Manny Cheema. The third style list is the Freebooters list that have been making the rounds and doing quite well. The fourth list is a very unique list that has actually been around since last year, and I had the pleasure of talking to the person who plays it a lot, Colin K. And the last list is a list that I think has the potential to see more similar lists pop up and do quite well in the competitive scene. All right, so let's move on to the first list, which I dub Evil Skulls by Rich Kilton. So, noticeable placings, Rich Kilton took first with this list at Wargames for Warriors. And this list is very reminiscent of the 8th edition Evil Sons lists that we started seeing near the end of, I would say, May. It was near the end of May. A lot of people were running like squads of 20 boys and using that to pressure the board a lot and fighting for primaries. So the core strategy is not to kill your opponent, but to outsmart them. So you overwhelm them with a lot of OPSEC bodies. Rich Kilton's list, which I'll pop up, has a lot of OPSEC. You have 1 battalion of Evil Sons and 1 outrider of Death Skulls. The Death Skulls is primarily just to get OPSEC on all your infantry. A couple of cool things in the list is Rich Kilton talked about how he used Def Copta's double move to take risk-free shots. He's taking advantage of that OPSEC, shooting the chaff off objectives with Squig Buggies because Squig Buggies have a LOS line. No, they don't require line of sight. And Res Mecha's Redder Paint, which is the Evil Sons. I believe that is the relic, which allows you to give units within engagement range fight last. And Faceted News, which allows you to, in your command phase, pick one unit that can advance and charge or fall back and charge, allows you to be even more mobile. So the common secondaries that Rich took were Stranglehold, Retrieve Octarius Data, and Raise the Banners. And the core units were Truck Boys. It's basically all the boys. The list is very intricate, and I think as opposed to going over the core units in this list, it's actually better to just take a look at this list itself. So there's a lot of moving parts to this list. This is not a typical list that people have been playing. It's really a list that's tailored to his playstyle. This is really a playstyle that's very technical, and it comes from a lot of experience. There is a great podcast that Rich Kilton did with Art of War, and I'll post that in the link below. As well, there's actually games of Rich Kilton playing this list at War Games for Warriors, so I'll post links for that down there as well. Now let's go over some of the things that are standouts in Rich Kilton's list from other Orc lists. So first of all, we see that he takes a Weird Boy. Weird Boy has really fallen out of favor as the change to the Weird Boy, his psychic is less consistent. Before you could pretty much get an auto the jump, but now it's much harder to do that. It takes a Weird Boy, I think typically for Fits of Gork, and the jump is for extra mobility to move all of his troops around. Another thing that's unusual is that most people with their Beast Boss on Skugasaur take Hard as Nails, and they also take a Beast Hide Mantle, but in this case, he's taking Res Mecha's Redder Paint. Now what that allows him to do is when he charges in with his Beast Boss and his Squig Hog Boys charge in behind him, then the Beast Boss makes all the units around him in engagement fight last, so it lets the Squighog boys fight pretty much unharmed unless the opponents have some very strong interrupt options. Another thing is that he likes to put his war boss in the Death Skulls because the war boss is an infantry, and by doing this, his war boss actually gets OBSEC, which is very useful. Overall, he is maximizing OBSEC bodies. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bodies with OBSEC in this list, as well as having Squighog boys who can hold points, Devcopters and Knobs on Smasher Squigs. Of course, they don't have OBSEC, but they could easily kill stuff and just hold points as well. And giving one of them the faster than use, basically making it a character that gives other core units around it the ability to advance and charge. I believe for each Squighog boys unit, you can take 2 Knobs on Smasher Squig without taking a detachment slot. Another interesting point here is that he does not have Nitro Squig on his Rucka Trucks. He puts them in separate fast attack slots to take advantage of the Death Skull's reroll ability. And that's pretty much the list. Not much else to say about that. It's a solid list that suits a solid playstyle, and it's a list that is extremely adaptable and can perform well against a variety of other armies, as this is not a list that's specifically looking to kill stuff or even fight stuff in melee and do that well. It's just literally playing to win the game, which is scoring objectives and primaries. So hats off to the war boss Rich Kilton for his first place and an awesome list. Alright, so the next list we're going to go into is an archetype I like to call Bloodaxe Buggies. So Bloodaxe Buggies, the list that we're going to jump into is Manny Cheema's, who took first at the Summer Slaughter, but Derek Jack, who I actually had the pleasure of speaking to on Facebook, took second at Alberta Classic with a similar style, although he had I believe he took a Death Skull Patrol for OPSEC as well, but he was running his buggies mainly as Bloodaxe. Now, Bloodaxe has a very unique benefit to the buggies in that it allows the buggies, or any unit in your army for that matter, to fall back, and then you can either charge or shoot, which is amazing for buggies because they have such a huge footprint. It would be very easy for your opponent to just charge them and essentially make you lose a lot of efficiency because now the buggies, most of their weapons are blast, so they cannot shoot in combat. So this allows you to really take advantage of playing against even mobile armies because now you can just fall back and shoot or charge. So if you want to run quasi tanks that brap everything, say no more, you've got Bloodaxe Buggies. So this is a playstyle that suits the mechanized orc who likes to win the game by efficient trading. So the idea of Bloodaxe Buggies is you're going to trade efficiently in the shooting and fighting and essentially fight your opponent off objectives. So the core strategy here is just to take a lot of buggies, and you want to call a speed walk turn 1 or 2. Use your buggies to block enemy movement, as buggies have a huge footprint, so it's very easy to use them to block your opponents. Squig buggies bully your opponents off objectives. Squig buggies have basically mortar shells, so they don't need line of sight, which is very, very strong in 9th edition. And also popping or taking to the last on your squig buggies to essentially score some easy primary, or sorry, not primaries, but secondaries. As squig buggies like to stay behind, you're not going to have your squig buggies exposed that much. And even if, they somehow get tagged, you can fall back and you can still shoot and take advantage of having squig buggies. A custom force field is something that Manny Cheema used specifically in his list, and that's to help with opponents' alpha strikes and to help survive against range armies that could dish out a lot of damage, because you can actually pop your custom force field for 2 CP and make it a 5+ and increase the range. And also the bonus of having Bloodaxe is that you can redeploy, just in case anything happens, you can redeploy your units before you guys roll for turn. When I spoke with Darren said that he typically took Retrieve Octarius data, Engage, and then a third secondary depending on what his opponents did. And Manny, he actually made a video on his list, which is a really great video. I'll post the link down below. Said he usually took Stranglehold, Retrieve, Octarius Data, and to the last. So let's jump into Manny's list, because I think this really embodies Bloodaxe Buggies, because literally his whole list is buggies. So he took a Death Killer Wartrike with Brutal but Cunning, made it the Warlord. He took 4x Commandos, 1x Knob, He took 3 squads of scrapjets, and he took a Storm Boys, just Nob with the Choppa, no Power Claw, and another unit of Storm Boys. In his other detachment, he had a Big Mech with the Custom Force Field, Grot Oiler, and a Bionic Oiler. Morgog's Finken Cap, so that's the relic that lets you generate a CP on a 4 plus. And I've got a Plan Lance, that's the stratagem that lets you, sorry, not the stratagem, but the clan trait that lets you redeploy at least 3 units before the turn, or you could even put them in reserve. And then he took 1 squad Rocket Truck Squig Buggies, another squad of Rocket Truck Squig Buggies, and yet another squad. So he had in total 18 buggies. And yeah, he was just going in there, brapping everything. Buggies, especially the Megatrax, can actually hit decently in close combat. Even the Rugged Trucks can hit decently in close combat. I've had some Chaos Spawn charge my Rugged Trucks, and they did not have a good time because at toughness 6, 4 plus armor save, and Rugged Trucks also have Saw, so they're actually decent in melee as well. People were just complaining that it's like an auto win list, and Manny was saying that this list is very susceptible to anti-tank fire, and also that it's very susceptible to getting move block. So if there were armies that had more infiltration units that can basically deploy pre-game on the battlefield 9 inches away from his opponent, it could have been a bad time for Manny. As running this many buggies, I'll say this: I like to play a lot of buggies. I've been playing buggies for a while. I usually run 9 to 10 buggies, and that itself is already absurd to try to fit on the board. So I can't even imagine running 18. Yeah, I could see that against certain armies getting like blocked into your own deployment could be a huge problem, especially with like Democrons who can basically charge on turn 1. That would be a huge pain in the butt. Definitely taking redundancy and efficiency to the next level by just taking everything that he thinks is good and nothing else. So congrats to Manny, and this would be a fun list to try out if you're just itching to test out a game. All right, so the next list we're gonna take a look at is something I call Speedbooters, or what Ozzy Malochi, who took first at Alberta Classic GT, called it Vroom Vroom Jank. So this is a common format that we're seeing for the Speedwalk, is where they run as all Freebooters clans. So Freebooters has a special rule where if you destroy an enemy unit, then you get +1 to hit in that phase. Essentially, you can never go beyond +1 of your innate ballistic skill, but what you can do is have enough +1s to avoid things like -1 to hit, like lightning fast reflexes or dense terrain. So this is really good as it makes your shooting extremely consistent and deadly. So if you like to shoot and roll dice, then this is definitely a list for you. Another thing is that you use the Death Killer War Trike, and that can steal objectives because it actually has a relic on it. What that gives you gives you an ability where enemies around 6 inches of it, they lose OPSEC. And the freebooters also have a stratagem that gives any freebooters infantry OPSEC for one. Is it one turn or yeah? It's for one turn until your next command phase. So this allows freebooters, or speedbooters as I like to call them, to shoot a lot of stuff and also to contest objectives with their infantry. The common secondaries that I saw people play, I was watching some of Dan Salmon's game at Flying Monkey Kong. I'll put a link to that below. Oftentimes he took Engage on All Front and Retrieve Octarius Data. I think that's pretty standard for this list, as you're going to be running a lot of DACA jets, and some lists are even running Wasbomb Blastijets. So the core units are the War Trikes, the Squig Buggies, the War Bikers, the Megatrack Scrapjets, the DACA Jets, and anything that has DACA. Commandos and Stormboys also being a big part of this list for Octarius Data and just being able to trigger that stratagem that gives them OPSEC as well. So let's look at Ozzy's list here. He took a Freebooters Patrol, and then he took a Freebooters Outrider. So in the HQ choice, he took a Death Killer War Trike so that he can call the Speedwog. He took a 10-man Gretchen and gave them Horrible Gits, which gives them the -1 to range weapons to nearby units and also gives them OPSEC. He took 5 Commandos, giving his Nob a Power Claw, and he even took 5 Tank Busters with his Nob having a Rocket Launcher. So Tank Buster is not something that we've seen in the other lists, and this is pretty unique to his list here. He took 3 Megatrack Scrapjets, two Dakajets, two Dakajets being extremely common in these freebooter lists. He took a Beast Boss on a Squigosaur with Hard as Nails and Beast Hide Mantle, this being a very, very common loadout that we're seeing a lot in competitive play. Another interesting thing is he took a big mech in Mega Armor, giving it the Dead Shiny Shooter and a Teleport Blaster. So he's taking a mech that's just very, very shooty as opposed to taking the custom force field. Another interesting thing about Ozzy's list is that he took Burna Boys. So he took a squad of 10 Burna Boys and he took a squad of 4 Burna Boys. Burna Boys now require you to take a Spanna, and he gave all his Spannas custom Mega Blasters. So that's an interesting way that you could get some more anti-tank, anti-high toughness is from having these custom Mega Blasters in the Burna Boys. Now, one thing to note is that if you roll a 1, that's going to kill the Spannas. So you probably don't want to be shooting with the Spannas every turn. But yeah, definitely they could definitely trade up because custom Mega Blasters are quite lethal. And Spannas are around 16 points only anyways. And for the fast attack, he was taking 3 squads of Rugged Truck Squig Buggies, 1 with the single Rugged Truck, and 2 other squads holding 2 Rugged Trucks. Now I just want to check real quick here if he was taking Nitro Squig because I did not take note of that. But yes, so this Rugged Truck here did have Nitro Squigs, the first one here, and he also had 3 squads of Warbikers, the first squad having 4 Warbikers total, 3 and a Knob having Power Claw, and the third Warbikers, 3 Warbikers total, 2 and a Knob, the Knob given Big Choppa, and another 3 Warbikers, 2 and the Knob having a Big Choppa. So the idea of this list is essentially to brap everything. So you typically, like the Bloodaxe list, you typically pop your Speedwalk turn 1 or 2, and then you just go to town. You just move up, you blast everything with Rocket Truck Squig Buggies, you blast with Dakajets. Typically, how I play Speedbooters is I try to pop like something really squishy real fast, like a 5-man, because a lot of players bring 5-man groups of infantry just to hold backfield objectives. So you can use something like Deca Jets or your Squig Buggies to get that initial +1 to hit, and then the rest of your army just starts brapping at everything. Now, I found personally that even without getting +1 to hit, you can actually do quite a lot of damage. Popping that +1 is, now don't get me wrong, you need to pop +1. That's where the strength of this army comes from. But there are some times where you just have bad rolls or you just can't pop that +1. It's still quite a lethal list on its own, especially the fact that you can give your infantry OPSEC, and you can actually take OPSEC away with your Death Killer Wartrike over here. Makes this a very potent list. Overall, I do like Ozzy's iterations. Very solid. I like the idea that he's not taking a lot of the usual infantry here, like Storm Boys or Commandos. Rather, he's taking advantage of the fact that you can have more shooty infantry like your Tank Busters and your Burner Boys, and then he's just giving these guys the OPSEC by using the stratagem, which is interesting. So he's not relying too much on the Storm Boys or the Commandos' mobility. Rather, he's relying on pure shooting power. You can see that he's even showing that by not having a regular mech with a custom force field, which a lot of Speedwalks take, and he's just having a mech and Mega Armor to shoot things with a Teleport Blaster and the Dead Shiny Shooter. So very solid list, and congratulations to Ozzy for taking first at the Alberta Classic GT, and also congrats to Ben Jurek, Dan Sammons. Also congrats to Darren Jack, who gave me a lot of advice on these lists as well. Alright, next up we have a very interesting archetype, and this is a list that I have dubbed Goffs of War. Bigger is best. So who needs bodies when you can just kill everything by running gas and 3 kill tanks? So you can see there's a kind of running theme in the Ork Codex. We're just trying to kill everybody, okay? So the core strategy is to run up the map, and you want to deny area with your big bodies, your kill tanks, your gas ghoul, and then you just, if anything gets too close, you can just punch things with gas ghoul. And kill tanks put out a tremendous amount of firepower. They can actually hit on 4+, or sorry, shoot on 4+, if their guns are within half range. So if they're Giga Shooters, which is 48 inches, if they're shooting at 24 inches or less, then you get 4+ ballistic skill, which is huge on orcs. Also, Mech Buzz Buzzgob can give the Morkanaut +1 to hit, and Colin K also took a Weird Boy to allow him to max out the Warp Ritual. Colin K, I've been watching on Beast Coast pairing since like last November, but Colin K has been consistently running these three kill tanks lists, and he has been doing quite well. A lot of people have been saying that Lords of War are not that strong at this edition because of the amount of multiple damage units, but Colin K kind of proving that wrong. He took 8th at Flying Monkey Con. That was a pretty stacked event, and he also was 4-1. So it's not like he was a slouch at that event. He did pretty well. As well, interestingly enough, a man by the name of Marcus Robinson took 8th at the last of the Summer Winehammer with a similar list. All right, so this is the list itself. What it has is three detachments. One is a super heavy with three kill tanks. He's taking the Giga Shooter and the Morkanaut. Another patrol detachment with Gazgal Thraka, Makari, 10 Gretchen. And the last patrol with Boss Buzzgob, a Weird Boy, 10 Gretchen, Rugged Truck Squig Buggies with Nitro Squigs, 5 Storm Boys, Knob with just a Choppa. So this leaves him with 4 CP and 2,000 points. So I had the pleasure of talking to Colin K briefly on Facebook, and he described a bit of his playstyle. And I watched his game. One of his games was actually streamed and uploaded on YouTube. I'll put the link for that down below as well. So Colin K, what he says is that he essentially moves the kill tanks forward and tries to get those objectives as fast as possible. He also likes to put some Gretchen in one of the kill tanks, so if the kill tank explodes and dies, then the Gretchen pop up and they still have OPSEC and he still has that point. Another interesting thing about this list is that Makari actually gives Feel No Pain to kill tanks and the Morkanaut and basically anything that's Goffs. So he is using Makari to give a Feel No Pain to essentially his whole army or wherever he needs to be. He's also taking a Weird Boy here, which allows him to do the secondary of Warp Ritual. That allows him to get secondaries pretty easily. He said that most of the time he was maxing out that secondary, and he said a lot of the time he was maxing out on primaries as well. The mech boss Buzzgob, which is a Goff specific character, he can actually give the Morkanaut +1 to hit in shooting and melee, which makes the Morkanaut quite a force to deal with. The Morkanaut has a lot of high strength weapons and can really deal with any tanks or high toughness characters and vehicles. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. He's just getting in there, crumping them, shooting them, and with Gazgal, if anything gets too close, he can just crump them. So congrats on Colin for doing well at Flying Monkey Con, and congrats on also coming up with a cool list, a list that really breaks the mold and that he's been perfecting and playing and really proving that you can do well in the meta without having a meta list. This is a really fun list. I would recommend you guys try it out if you are into just something unique and different. Of course, kill tanks are pretty expensive from Forge World, so it may be something fun to try out on Tabletop Simulator. As I think this list is almost around $1,300 to put it together, maybe more. All right, next up we had a list by Manu Perea, and this was a very similar list to the list that Rich Kilton ran. And this list took a lot of boys, but the difference is that he took a lot of Beast Snagga boys. So he took one detachment of Snake Bites and one detachment of Bloodaxes. It looks similar to Rich Kilton's list. Now, Manu Perea, I couldn't find much information about him, so there weren't many videos that I could watch to really learn about this list. So I kind of had to guesstimate how this list would work. So I was assuming that he would take Stranglehold and Warp Ritual, as he did have a Weird Boy in his list. So his list looks like this. He has a Mozrog Scragbad, a Weird Boy in his Snake Bites, two squads of 10 Beast Snagga boys, one 10-man squad of boys, one 10-man squad of truck boys, and for his fast attack, he had a knob on Smash a Squig with Might is Right, two squads of Squighog boys, a truck, and then for his Bloodaxe Outrider, he had the Beast Boss on Squigosaur with Hard as Nails, Beast Hide Mantle, that's a very standard loadout that a lot of people like to take, 10 Beast Snagga boys, and 10 Truck boys. Then he took two squads of Commandos, both having Power Claws, two Rucker Truck Squig Buggies, a Defcopter, and a Kill Rig, which is something we haven't seen, with Frazzle, Spirit of Gork, and he gave it the Scorch Get Bones. I believe that's a relic. And then he took a truck. So he ends up with 9 CP, and he has just 1 point shy of maxing out the 2,000 points. So very efficient list. It seems like this is on a very similar game plan to Rich Kilton, where he just wants to contest objectives and really play the game by scoring those primaries and scoring those secondaries. One thing though that I didn't notice about this list is that he could have actually, I think, made this a battalion and a patrol. I'm not sure what the specific reason why he wants to have uh, this as a Bloodaxe detachment. I'm assuming it's for the fallback, charge, fallback, and shoot. But if he wanted to, he could actually put one rugged truck over here and the knob on Smash Squig as a non-force org, and this could be a battalion and this could be a patrol, which would save. It doesn't save a huge amount of CP; it just saves 1 CP, so he'd be at 10 CP. But perhaps there is some method to this. Rugged trucks definitely do suffer from being touched, so having the ability to fall back and then shoot or charge is definitely huge. Devcopters, I like the use of Devcopters in the Blood Axes. I think that would be really cool because now then they can also fall back and shoot or fall back and charge. And the kill rig is an absolute monster, so I would have loved to see what the kill rig would have done in the game. Unfortunately, I was not able to find the games for this. Ultimately, it looks like a fun list. It's very fluffy, which I think is really neat. So it really fits the whole theme of Snakebite, Blood Axes. You've got like all this infantry, and everything is very thematic, which is also very cool. So congrats to Manu Perea for coming fifth at the IGT Granada War Lotus. It's a very cool list, and if you're someone who's really into the whole fluff of snake bites and blood axes, I think it's a list that's worthwhile trying out. And I think that this is a type of list that we're actually going to see more often as the meta develops. So that's it for all the lists. Thanks for watching. I hope that this can give you some inspiration in building your own orc list. And I have also posted down below some of the videos and interviews that I was researching when I was making this video. And I also posted a paste bin which has all of the has every single list that I went over in this video and also the list that I didn't cover. So you can take a look at that and look more in depth as to what's going on in the Orc competitive scene. As always, guys, I really appreciate all the comments, the likes, the subs. Thanks so much for that. There's going to be more videos in the future, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'm always interested in your thoughts, so leave them down below. As always, guys, you guys keep rolling those dice out there, and you guys have a great day.